The Supreme Court marks the 49th anniversary of the landmark case Roe v. Wade this weekend. Rallies and protests are expected both for and against abortion rights in the coming days. And this all comes as the Supreme Court considers reversing Roe, which would allow individual states to pass their own abortion laws. Bloomberg News reporter Kelsey Butler has been covering the issue and joins us now to discuss what's at stake. Kelsey, great to speak with you. For context here, the court's deciding on a Mississippi case, and they are indicating that they're likely to side with the state in that case. If they do that, Roe gets undone. Walk me through what happens next in that scenario. What does abortion access look like across the U.S. if and when SCOTUS does make that decision?
Right. So what will happen is that abortion access will, even more than it does now, come down to what state you live in. Right now, we know that there are restrictions and a lack of providers in many places. But what will happen is that about half the states in the country already have laws in place that, if Roe is undone, would essentially make an abortion impossibility in those states. Um, Idaho, South Dakota are two places where there are trigger laws that would immediately go into effect, banning nearly all abortions as well.
Can you walk me through? I know there was a series of these trigger laws that were created in a bunch of these states. Can you walk me through sort of what led to that seeming trend, especially in these southern states? Was it an anticipation of the Supreme Court undoing Roe?
Well, nearly pretty much since the Roe decision became the law of the land, there have been groups that oppose abortion that have been kind of working to chip away at it on the state and local level. And what we're seeing is that a lot of those really big things that impact people on a real day-to-day level happen at the local level. And that's really what it comes down to. If there isn't an abortion provider anywhere close to you and you have to drive 300 miles away, that's a real impactful thing, and that's been
Yeah.
happening for some time.
Yeah, of course, of course. Thank you so much for explaining that. And I know from your reporting that the majority of abortions are now acquired via an abortion pill. If Roe is overturned and states have these trigger laws that go into effect right away, could other states like New York start to funnel abortion pills to people in other states who might need them?
Well, a really big restriction on the abortion pill was just lifted that allows people to get it by mail. But again, things really come down to what state you live in. So there are already about 19 states where there are restrictions to the abortion pill. Things like requiring a person to take it in the presence of a physician, for example.
Mm.
So that again still requires travel, potentially time off work, and some type of coordination.
Got it. Okay. I know that one argument we heard from lawyers in the Mississippi case is that women have more equality now, they're paid better, so the hardship of motherhood is a little bit less than when Roe was first passed 49 years ago. Talk to me about the reality of that argument. What is the economic situation for mothers in the U.S. right now?
So I do want to talk about the fact that, abortion and the access to abortion does have an economic and a financial impact. A woman that wants an abortion and isn't able to get one is 4 times more likely to live in poverty. And, that costs the abortion restrictions that are already in place cost state economies over $100 billion every year already. We also see in the US that the US is a country with a high maternal mortality rate compared to other countries like Canada or France. So in addition to the financial impact, there is also a very real life impact as well.
Yeah. And can you talk to me about the demographics? Who is most impacted by abortion restrictions in the US?
So what it really comes down to is workers that are in jobs where it's not as easy to necessarily go and get time off to potentially travel somewhere. Additionally, people that don't have the financial means to travel out of their state. If their state has very strict abortion laws, you're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the money. And those in rural areas where abortion providers are few and far between already.
Yeah, sure. And how does the U.S. compare to, other countries, other peer countries on the issue of abortion access and reproductive health access?
Sure. So this actually came up in the oral arguments in the Mississippi case, and lawyers did point out that the U.S. Right now, compared to other peer countries, does allow abortions up to viability. So that's anywhere from 20 to 24 weeks. Countries like Great Britain and Germany allow that, and in the last 50 years, or I'm sorry, in the last 25 years, about 50 countries have liberalized their abortion laws. Countries like Thailand, Mexico, Argentina, for example,
Mm.
have moved forward on abortion rights. Very few countries have moved backwards to make abortion more difficult.
Got it. And like we were speaking about earlier, Kelsey, there are so many obstacles in the U.S., including paid family leave. Another thing that you've reported on is maternal mortality rates. Can you explain that to me and how the U.S. compares with peer countries on how they're doing with maternal mortality rates?
Absolutely. So the U.S. Maternal mortality rate is more than double a lot of other countries. I'm just thinking Canada, France, the UK. And what happens is that women of color are at, you know, even greater risk. A Black or Indigenous woman in the US is 3 times more likely to die of a pregnancy related cause than a white woman. And in certain places like New York City, for example, those statistics are even worse. So you stack that on top of a lack of parental leave, and you really see large swaths of pregnant people that are facing some really big challenges during that time in their lives.
Sure. And Kelsey, just taking kind of a bigger, broader step back, what does your reporting tell you about what the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade would do to women's rights in the U.S.? And what would that kind of look like moving forward? I know you spoke with women from Now, for example. What did they say about that?
So yeah, that I've written about that and how the U.S. is was really a leader on women's rights when Roe became the law of the land almost 50 years ago. What that's going to do is really kind of put the country in a place where is it really a great place for women? And that's the question that a lot of women's rights activists are asking right now.
Right, right, of course. Final question for you, Kelsey. As we look into 2022, knowing that this could potentially be the final anniversary of Roe v. Wade as law of the land, what do you think that people misunderstand most about the importance of abortion access and abortion care in the U.S. based on your reporting?
So I think the thing that comes across when I talk to experts and they really emphasize is that it's a it's an issue that has broader ramifications. It impacts, yes, one person, but it also impacts families, economies, and the future trajectory of these people's lives.
Right, of course, of course. And like you said earlier, the people who need help most already in most cases. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us and giving us that context. Really appreciate it. That was Bloomberg News' Kelsey Butler. There's still a lot for America to wait and see what happens surrounding Roe v. Wade. So we're going to continue to report on that for you right here with Quick Take. I'm Madison Mills in New York. Stay with us for more.